Welcome to CSCA48 Tutorial 4. In this tutorial, we will be covering debugging. Debugging is one of the most common things that you will be doing as a programmer, as writing perfect code on the first try feels incredibly concerning. In this course, we will not be using debugging tools, so here are a few methods that you can use and will be tested on to debug your code. The first method is to run your code with a known input and a known output. For example, the find min-max function will give you the minimum and maximum elements of an array. I know if I give it a sample array, like 1, 2, 3, then it will tell me that the minimum is a 1 and the maximum is a 3. The second method is what many people call the rubber duck method. You will explain your code to a rubber duck. By explaining the code to another, you will often find the mistake as you explain it and realize there's a problem in the logic of your explanation. The rubber duck can be substituted with any object or friend, and can even be a mental rubber duck if you so choose. The third method is tracing. Write out the expected value of all the variables and other data on pen and paper at each step of your code. You should even draw out the memory model at a basic level. The fourth and last method is checking within the code that each step is indeed doing what is expected and the variables have the right values. Once we isolate the line that we think is incorrect, we will think why it isn't working as intended, then fix it. Obviously, if this line is a function call, we'll have to look inside the function. And if the fix works, then that's great. Change the input and keep testing to see if it works on all different inputs. So let's go over an example of how to debug. As you can see, this code here has some bugs in it. Let's go over how we can debug this code. As you can see in my code here, I give the input 10, 3, 24, 9, and -1. I know my maximum should be 24, and my minimum should be -1. Based on a known input and a known output, I know my code isn't working. So let's try to isolate our code. Let's go line by line in our main function to see what could be going wrong here. This is going to be the rubber duck method. So in my first line, I'm creating an array. Okay, that looks fine to me. In my second line, I'm creating the array min and array max. Okay, that's fine to me. In my third line, I'm using the find min max function. Well, this is not working as intended. So let's look into this function. Within this function, let me go line by line to see what's wrong. Okay, I'll restart from the top, giving it a known input and a known output. Well, my known input and known output are not working correctly, as demonstrated by the main functions scenario. So let me go on to the second method, the rubber duck method. Okay, so I will be iterating over every single line in this array, every single element in this array. At the first element, I'll be assigning my minimum and maximum to some default values. And if I have a new minimum value, I'll update it. If I have a new maximum value, I will, well, there you go. I was explaining to myself that I needed to put in a new maximum value and update it, but I didn't. So let me put this through. Whoops. Control V. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. Let me put this through. Change this from array min to array max. When it is less than that, I will reassign my array max. So with the rubber duck method, I found out that, hey, I was missing an entire check here, an entire check to update my maximum. Well, let's start from the beginning. We're going to run our code on a known input and known output again. And hey, our minimum and maximum are working. Okay, let's change our code once again. Let's change it on a new input and new known output. I will change the array size to 6 so I can just throw in an extra number. And let's say I want my minimum to be different. Let's say I want it to be -2. Let's throw it at the beginning of the array. I'll run it, and I'll see, okay, well, this got missed. My minimum is still -1, and my maximum is, as intended, 24. So why is this not working? Well, I will go by the rubber duck method and explain all my code again. I'm going over every single element. My first one is special, and every time I go over a non-first element, I will check if this is either a new extreme, a new maximum, or minimum. Well, code seems to work. The pseudocode seems to work. So what's wrong here? So maybe I can trace through my code. So I start off with int I equals 1. Okay, so what is the first element of my array? Well, remember, C counts from 0, not 1. So the first element of my array is actually 10, not -2. So there's my bug, actually. If I change this to a 0, then hopefully it'll work. let's run this code and see. It's still not working. That's because I haven't updated my second element. If I trace through it, I would see that, oh, on the 0th case, I actually don't do what was intended of me. I don't go through this my special first case here. So I'll update that with my new starting index, which I missed before, and I'll run my code. Now I have my minimum is -2 and my maximum is 24. And from here on out, my code is bug-free. I just went down the list of printing a known input on a known output. Once I found something that was a discrepancy, I tried to explain the code to myself. With that, I was able to find, oh, I just missed an entire step that I meant to do. And I was unable to catch that I actually did not iterate over the array correctly. On my third method, tracing, I was able to find out that I did not index correctly. The fourth method, where we check all the values within the code, was not necessary here, but it would have been the next step I would have tried. So with that, I have debugged my code, and I am done. Thank you for watching this tutorial on debugging. We'll be covering CDTs in the next video.